I'm pleased to follow such a thoughtful speech by Ms Sugden. I think she made some telling points. The contributions of some others in this debate, I have to say, were in the classic style of trying to kick up some dust when you don't really know or want to deal with the issue. And we had all sorts of dust kicked up in this debate. There's some matter I couldn't even follow about a young Nigel Dodds, no idea what that was about. Mr O'Toole, he was clutching at straws from Arkansas. But really the answer to Mr O'Toole's point about clutching at straws for somebody who got a hefty sentence for drugs in Arkansas lies in what Ms Sugden said. By clutching to that straw, Mr O'Toole wants to give a bye ball to the rapist. Because this legislation, if it were to proceed, is drafted all-encompassing of all criminal offences. It's not just the terrorist offence. It's any offence, which invariably would include rape, which attracts a sentence of more than 5 years. So when we come to vote tonight, we are saying to ourselves, take the politics out of it. Am I content that in a country where I have the power to legislate, I'm content not to change a situation where a rapist could be appointed to a public body because he's a political appointee? Under the cover of being a political appointee, he can be appointed to any of these public bodies. Are members content to embrace that concept? That really is the sort of thing that this comes down to. I just want to stay with the SDLP for a moment. They raised from the first speaker, Mr O'Toole and Mrs Kelly, they kept going back to the incompatibility, my words, not theirs, of this bill with what they call the Good Friday Agreement. I just want to remind this House, the SDLP voted on the first Special Advisors Bill, upon which this is modelled, at second reading for that bill. That bill at that stage did not even have the protections that if you showed contrition, if you had regard to your victims, etc., you could still hold those posts. It was, in its initial stage, a blanket ban. The SDLP voted for that at second stage. And now suddenly, a bill that's in precisely the same language of the ultimate outcome of that legislative process conflicts with the Belfast Agreement. I think Dominic Bradley had it right when he refuted those issues. I referred to them in my opening speech. His answer to the protestations from Sinn Féin that refuse to allow McArdle to continue in position was in breach of the Belfast Agreement. It was anti-Good Friday Agreement. Mr Bradley of the SDLP had it right. He said it was that appointment that was against the spirit of the Good Friday Agreement, because it was a calculated, deliberate measure, a statement by Sinn Féin that it was going to elevate a particular individual because of their past. It was going to do so because it could, and to demonstrate that it had no remorse or regret for the actions of that individual or anyone else it called to volunteer in the IRA, and that it was elevating and promoting them precisely to make that point. And that is precisely why Paul Kavanagh today sits on the Education Authority. It is a declaration by Sinn Féin. We do not accept your criminalisation. We do not accept your criminalisation of our IRA volunteers. They were not criminals. They were, in their eyes, something the very opposite. And therefore, we are going to elevate them and promote them as a rejection of the very suggestion that they were criminals. And it is that mentality and that ethos that appointed Lady McArdle and Paul Kavanagh to the Education Authority. Now, if, members, that is in the spirit and compliant with the letter of the Belfast Agreement, then I think those who are the big enthusiasts for that need to really look at themselves as to what it is they're saying. If this bill is contrary to the Belfast Agreement, then what are the principles of the Belfast Agreement? That we must never call out wrong? That we must never be on the side of right? Rather, we must promote, reward convicts, and in doing so have no regard to their victims. Because that, as I started in my first speech, is the point. We choose here. Are we on the side of the victim makers, now the political elite for some, or are we on the side of the victims? And it saddens me that the SDLP, who in 2012 and 13 saw the issue, today, apparently, are going to kill this bill, and to kill it in blatant contradiction of the stand they and some of their members articulated at that time. Well, either you were right then and you're wrong today, or vice versa. So is the SDLP repudiating the stance it took against Mary McArdle being a special advisor? Are they saying we made a mistake in voting second stage for a bill that would remove her? The same bill that removed Paul Kavanagh from the office of Special Advisor. Was that too a mistake? Because really, the SDLP are now in a position that that's the point they've driven themselves to. And then I come to another part of the Pan-Nationalist Front, the Alliance Party. They voted in the final reading for the 2013 Act. They embraced the very principles which are word for word in this bill that were in the 2013 bill. So what has changed? The legislative intent, the legislative language hasn't changed. Patently, the Alliance Party has. If now they eschew that which they supported back then. And it'll be very clear to the watching public that if members vote as indicated, then the Alliance Party and the SDLP have combined with Sinn Féin to protect in office a multiple murderer, a man who was told by the sentencing judge that he didn't even show a shred of compassion for the innocent victims that he murdered. Innocent victims that he knew were there, that he could see before the bomb was detonated. Now really, Is that the sort of company the Alliance Party now keeps? That they want to protect individuals like that in public office, overseeing the education of our children? How has the Alliance Party so lost its way that in 2013 it did the right thing, and tonight it will be Sinn Féin's little helpers to kill this bill, and in killing that, stamping on, trampling on innocent victims like Nora Field? That's really what all this comes down to. Which side are we on? And of course it's all dressed up and said, oh, reconciliation. Mrs. Dodds made probably about the most pertinent point in this debate when she drew to our attention, what is reconciliation? Reconciliation without remorse is nothing. It is a sham. It is a front. It counts for nothing. And yet, the ideological stance of the Alliance Party and the SDLP, no surprise also of Sinn Féin, is forget remorse. You don't need remorse. Just let's embrace that nice-sounding word reconciliation, and let's continue to elevate to high public office those who have no remorse. So remember in this House who thinks that the two gentlemen we're talking about, Mr. Kavanagh and Mr. Kelly, have any remorse, any contrition, any thoughts in Kavanagh's position for Nora Field. That is the invitation that the Alliance Party and the SDLP is accepting from Sinn Féin to kill this bill on the basis that those who perpetrated nigh unspeakable evil are to be treated like anyone else who didn't. Have we really so lost our moral compass in this House that we're prepared to sweep all that under the carpet? That's what those who go through the no lobby tonight are doing. Sweeping all thoughts of true reconciliation, which comes with remorse, dispensing it, discharging it, saying, no, we don't need that, we don't want that. We want people who are unremorseful, people who are not contrite, people who care nothing about their victims, to be elevated to high public office. If that's really where politics has got to in this place, then I do despair of our future. That's an amoral, not a moral compass. Thank you.